Ireland win at Murrayfield and are now the only team who can complete a Grand Slam in 2025. Hello, amateurs, and welcome back to our Six Nations series. And I've got a very happy Elko with me today. There he is.
Hey TT, yeah, good game that one.
Happy days, right? But there's a lot to talk about actually before the game even got started. Mac Hansen didn't make the captain's run and was replaced by Calvin Nash. What happened there?
Uh, well, he had a tight hamstring, I believe. I don't know. I text you some naughty pictures, didn't I? There are some rumors around that it was a disciplinary thing because he recorded a podcast, Coco, with the Australian boys and got his arse out. I've no problem with him getting his arse out. What he'd say, he's got a lovely arse. But I think the problem might have been that I don't know when it was recorded. Presumably sometime this week, and he was up at 5 in the morning. It's like, and whether it was in the last couple of days, then that would have been pretty bad. So I don't know. It's a rumor. His hamstring might be tight. I don't know. Seems odd though.
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimately, we don't know, but he definitely was on that podcast and definitely did get his ass out. So
He definitely did.
onto the anthems. Yeah, onto the anthems. And I just think the way they do this at Murrayfield, I think is so good. I love the Irish anthem. I love the Scottish anthem. And, I think it's just really atmospheric. And it was again today.
Yeah, I think they've nailed it there. It's always really good. It gets the crowd going. You have to sing when it's just you guys kind of doing it, if you know what I mean. There's no kind of background music and lone piper then pull out. But yeah, I had a couple of pals over there. Keith Dara, a good friend of mine from Terranure, he was over there and said it was pretty rammed actually with Irish. There was a lot of Irish travelling support, which is great, and you could hear that it was good.
Yeah. And Scotland, another thing they do really well is celebrate their heroes. And Chris Hoy came out to deliver the match ball to resounding applause, which was a lovely moment as well.
Yeah, it's sad in some respects, but I mean you got to just respect the guy to just coming out and fronting up. Well, you wouldn't expect anything less from such an absolute legend, and and a big shout to Rob Wainwright as well, who's done a lot of the donkey work in terms of I've done a lot of stuff like you've done TT in terms of covering some mileage, him on a bike. But no, fair play to them, and it's just a lovely moment and such respect from everyone there, both teams. The Irish guys were all clapping them off as they came off as well. So just rugby does that really well, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it really does. Absolutely does. Okay, let's get into the game. And, what we were hoping for pre-game, well, certainly what I was hoping for anyway, was that both teams turn up and actually really put their best foot forward and get as much of their game on the pitch as they possibly can. Unfortunately, I don't think we really saw that. Ireland dominated from the start and they really had a great first 20 minutes, and Scotland struggled to get anything going at all, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was weird. I've just been sort of having a think about it and listening to some of the interviews after I was watching on BBC. I don't know what you were having a look at, um, and just having a look at the stats online. And the stats are like surprisingly very even. In fact, if you looked at it, you'd probably say Scotland had won. Um,
Right.
but stats mean Jack when it wasn't a scrap, it wasn't a fight. Ireland dominated. Scotland looked. Not themselves, a lot of mistakes, weren't reading the defence very well, putting themselves under enormous pressure. Um, didn't start well, and then I'm sure we'll get onto it. Then there was a horrific head clash, which knocked the whole stuffing out of the game. I thought the referee was very poor in terms of continuity of the game. The amount of breaks in between scrums was so painful. I mean, it took ages for the game to get on with, and never mind with the long breakage with the injury. But yeah, it was just Ireland absolutely dominate, and I think it came back to what we were talking about in the pre, was that they just looked comfortable. They looked like they knew exactly what to do, and the same is true of the Scottish guys. They looked like they were 20-0 before the whistle went. It was very odd, very unlike them.
Yeah, like I said, they struggled to get a foothold, and that came from various things. You mentioned the errors. They also got 3 kicks charged down in that first 20 minutes as well. So they
Yeah,
couldn't relieve any pressure whatsoever. And it just all added up. And then, as you say, they lost two of their better players in Russell and Darcy Graham, and it looked like a long way back. It looked like we weren't even going to see a contest as far as I was concerned at that point. Ireland had scored. Nash got over in the corner after a great long pass from Prendergast, wasn't it, to put him over. So it's 7-0, and it just looked like it was going to be a procession, to be honest, at that point.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I was I was getting more and more nervous before this game kicked off. Having a look at a lot of the comments on the podcast we did the other day, um, there was a lot of unhappy people in Ireland about certain selections. I thought, oh God, what's going on here? Just didn't feel right. Yesterday's game put the willies right up me because it was quite reminiscent of the way, Ireland didn't make mistakes like France made, but frankly, it could have been 50-0 at half time. Like, genuinely, we could have scored and just put them away. Now, we didn't. And Scotland were in the mix, weirdly. Like, how can you dominate at an international level in every facet and the other team just look not right and yet only be not they scored when they scored just before half time as well. Like, that would have given them such a bit of something to talk about at half time. Before that, I was thinking, what's Gregor going to say? He'd probably tell them to take their jerseys off, don't bother going out. I mean, it was very poor.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Ireland got held up twice over the line as well during that period, as in situations where it looked like they probably were going to score. So yeah, they weren't getting the reward for their dominance on the scoreboard at that point. That's for sure. Now, around about halfway through the first half, there were a couple of funny things that I picked out that I heard. One was the commentator referring to James Lowe as gorilla glutes a couple of times, which made me chuckle. And then this was actually a technical point, this one. After a dropout from under the sticks, it was after Doris got held up, I think. You could hear one of the Scottish players on the ref mic shouting, watch the funnies, as in watch like the trick plays that Ireland like to play from those situations. So that was a really nice, like, they were totally aware that that's Ireland's thing. That's what they like to do. And yeah, nothing like that came off for Ireland today. So they must have shut it down if they tried to.
Yeah, some of the scramble defence was good. I mean, Ireland will be disappointed. This has been a theme before where Ireland haven't quite managed to take opportunities at that 5 meter area where they get, with that rules that's come in over the last few years have been held up over. And Scotland were very savvy. I mean, we knew they would be with some of the players they picked in the back row, but to pull the player over when it looked like he was short, I think it was probably Doris. Um, and Lowe as well, I think. So they were clever and boxed clever and were streetwise and stuff, but and clearly prepared well, knowing what Ireland were going to do. But there's one thing knowing what your opposition's going to do, and then there's another thing stopping them doing it. And that was the bit that was the bit they were missing. I mean, I thought there would be more spite in the game. There just wasn't. There was a little bit when Byrne got kind of pushed and he fell over and try to egg a penalty out of the referee. He was having none of it, but there wasn't a lot. O'Mahony didn't get filled in. He just got left to do what he wanted to do, and he played well and justified his call up. Um, it just wasn't very. It wasn't. Scotland should have played that game like a Calcutta Cup. When they turn up to Twickenham and but it just didn't feel that way. Poor.
Yeah, it didn't feel that way at all, actually. And I think it was, again, it was almost felt like a little bit like what happened to the Welsh yesterday when nothing was going right for them. And you can just feel like yourself deflating. I think we've all been there as players where you're looking around going, hang on a second, we've prepared much better for this. We know we're better than this. Why is nothing happening? And one of the reasons is actually the sort of headline grabber through the week was Peter O'Mahony. And he won a few turnovers. He won a line out against the throw when Scotland first had
Right.
an opportunity to get a mark down in the Irish 22. And yeah, they just kept nicking the ball back, basically, the Irish, every time Scotland got anywhere near.
Yeah, they did. It was crucial. Talk about big moment players and people like Byrne or Manny. That's why they're in there. They don't. They choose their moments really well. They've confidence in the guys left and right of them. They take their time. They're patient. Van der Fleer is excellent at this as well. And you just wait, and that's so deflating for for the opposition, right? You put in so much work, so much energy. You should come out with something, and then you don't. But obviously, we didn't take all our chances either. Ronan O'Gara made a really good point at half time around how Scotland looked like their timing was off. He said it was like they played against tackle bags all week and were getting gain line, so that and then obviously that's not going to happen against an Irish defence. And you've got to react off that. And they just looked exactly that. The timing wasn't right. They were just slightly off, and that just carries down. And then then you lose to your best players, and good night.
Yeah, completely. And as if it wasn't bad enough, the Irish were also dominating in the scrum, which I wasn't expecting. I thought the scrum was going to be a pretty even battle, but Porter definitely had the wood on Ferguson in the first half in particular. And it was a
Oh,
good
it was.
scrum that led to the ball carried up the left and Doris crashing over for the second try and 17-0.
Yeah, that's right. They. I mean, you could see it straight away. The first scrum was for Ireland, and it was so steady. You could see it was, yeah. And then when Scotland had their scrum, they were under enormous pressure. We did say after the Italy game we thought they'd probably go after, and then it was interesting that Schumann hadn't started, and we thought maybe the guy that come in would be better. But fair play to Beelum. I thought he played very well today, and obviously Porter. They scrummaged him very very hard, and yeah, that was a nice that try for Doris was nice. Your man, that kid who isn't big enough and isn't good enough to play for Ireland. He's only in there because he plays for Leinster apparently. He,
We're in
he did all
10.
right
We're in
today,
10.
didn't he? Yeah,
Yeah.
the 10. Yeah, he did all right, didn't he? He played okay, I thought. He was brilliant. The run around he did off that scrum, and then the sort of wherewithal not to do the offload when you could see him going for it to the left winger there, and he just held on to it. We recycled the ball real quick, and Doris bashed over and scored there. It was cool.
Yeah, it was. That's a beautiful try, actually. It's one of those as a forward when you're running onto a ball like that, you can see there's a half gap in front of you. You just like get almost froth at the mouth a little bit, waiting for that ball to get in your hands. It was a good try, really good try. But Scotland did get back somehow. They got back in the game before the end of the half, and they did it via who I think was Scotland's best player on the day by probably a country mile, which was Rory Darge. He was absolutely everywhere, making tackles, carrying the ball, and it was his tackle on Doris from an Irish scrum near their 5 metre line that led to a turnover and a penalty.
Yeah,
Scotland recycled, and it was a phenomenal finish, absolutely phenomenal finish.
Duan is good at that, and that's kind of his trademark in the air. And even though he's a big lad, he could just smash over. But it was very, very clever play, and it was frustrating from an Irish point of view. We just spoke about with such dominance in the scrum. Now, I I'm not sure. I thought there could have been a penalty there, but the ref because the scrum had gone down, and the referee told them to play it. And I don't know whether Bundy was asleep or whatever happened, but they seemed to be asleep. I think they thought they were going to get scrum again. I would have probably, if I was Doris, I would have said, no, I'm not playing it. And Gibson Park probably should have done the same thing. But anyway, the referee said play. And Bundy missed his clear. Great tackle by Darge, but Bundy missed the clear, messed up the clear. And then they got a penalty. And then I think Cherry decided to take it quick, and then they played, and it was a beautiful finish for Duan on the left wing there, really well taken, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, how are they in this game? Just madness.
Yeah, complete madness. And I mean, the other thing about that try that we must mention was Stafford McDowell's offload. Oh, knocking beers over. Stafford McDowell's offload
Zamboni.
yeah, um, to Duhan, because that was what made that try in the end. That was the critical bit because it got Josh van der Fleer, I think it was, who was in the outside centre channel, to bite in on him, uh,
Yeah,
which just allowed the space. So it was an unbelievable finish and very well created as well by the Scots. And as we say, 17-5 at half time when they've been really dominated for the entire half. It seemed like that was a win for them, really. And they came out in the second half and played really well for the first 10 minutes of the second half.
yeah, they did. I guess, I mean, it just gives you a little bit of belief because I know I'd be probably sat in that change room going, how on earth are we still in this game? Like we're getting battered everywhere. And we've lost our 10. we've lost one of the best wingers in the competition. If we get one more back going down, we are like, what are we going to do, sort of thing. But it obviously galvanised them, and yeah, they had a purple patch, I think, just after half time, where they put Ireland under enormous pressure. Ireland scrapped though, and defended pretty well. In fairness, like having such dominance, I thought Irish's work rate, Ireland's work rate, and commitment to each other was off the chart. Like they probably didn't get out of fifth gear, but in terms of a work rate, their work rate was as high as you'll get in a test game. It was pretty outstanding. But yeah, Scotland came out and really went for us.
Yeah, it's with the Ireland team. I was thinking about this earlier. What you'd say about them always is that the level of performance is always like a 7 or 8 out of 10 minimum for every player. So they've just got that kind of suffocating feel about them, where they,
Mm.
even if you find a glimmer of hope somewhere, it will get snuffed out by somebody else. And if somebody isn't quite performing that started, then you've got a whole bench of people that will come on and still perform at a very high level. Just that average performance level for the Irish team never drops. Like, it's always really outstanding. So even when Scotland were getting some go forward, and this is how it happened really, Dempsey got a really good carry, and then Scotland just looked after the ball a little bit more and managed to get going forward, which was the first time they did it in the whole game. That resulted in a couple of penalties for them, and they sorted the scrum out as well. So suddenly it's 11-17, and you're thinking, well, a real change in sort of shift of the balance of this game, back within a score. Anything could happen now.
Yeah, 100%. It was really heebie-jeebie. And rugby is such a sport that is about momentum. Every team is going to have a period of time where they're going to be able to throw some shots, and if it became crucial then after that when they had their purple patch that Ireland had to wrestle that back to take the momentum away, and obviously because the crowd are getting into it as well. The crowd are suddenly thinking, "Oh, hello," and then the referee becomes under pressure to make certain decisions, and you start to get the rub of the green, and it just feels better. Your energy levels spike. Um, but Ireland just, were able to wrestle that back and get momentum back and into the green side.
Yeah, and they did it straight from that kickoff. So Scotland kicked the penalty for 11-17, and then caught the kickoff that Ireland kicked to them. And I don't know if you saw this, but Ferguson sort of knocked the ball on as he went to ground, and I'm certain there's an Irish hand in there. Not either knocked it out underneath him somehow. I couldn't quite see it, and I didn't get to see a replay. Either way,
Yeah,
legal or
yeah.
not, it makes no difference. The referee didn't see it, so that's all that matters. And that turned the kind of momentum back to Ireland again, because they scored a couple of quick tries after that, and it was game done. That Scottish revival was put to bed very, very quickly.
Yeah, they snuffed them out, didn't they? And again, I don't think Ireland never panicked. They always knew that they had these guys in their in their pocket, really. And I'm sure you played in games where it's such a nice feeling. You kind of everyone's it's kind of the opposite of what was going through Scotland's probably bones in the first half. But the Irish, they know they prepared well. Um, I also think this is going to be really harsh, and this is why I'm annoyed with the way Scotland played. If we're really honest and brass taxes, right? Ireland's players per man are better than Scotland's players, right? Just through their record, okay. 10 arguably no, Finn is class, and there's probably 5 guys that would get into the Irish team. But in general, the Irish players are better. They've got a better record. We spoke about the provinces and how dominant they've been the majority of time, certainly this season. And that's where I felt that, like, I think Scotland were coming into this game going, we're as good, if not better, and we're just going to play rugby and beat Ireland with our rugby. And I think I think they had to bring more to the table. They had to bring that Calcutta absolutely. We're going to kill you. We're going to kick off. There's going to be scraps everywhere, and we're going to beat you on that, and we're going to beat you with the rugby. But I don't think they got that mentality right. They weren't hard enough to do that. That's probably going to cause all sorts of ructions. But I don't care. That's the way it looked, and that's the way it panned out. Like literally, they got absolutely dominated in every facet of the game. And it's painful to watch for the tournament. It was a bit of a, even as an Irish person watching it, and I'm delighted. it was a bit of a letdown in many respects.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype around this game, and to be honest, I agree with you. That's certainly the way it looked. I'd love to know what it felt like for the Scots in the week leading up to this. I'd like to know what it felt for them in the changing room before going out for this game. And but yeah, because they definitely didn't get their game on the pitch today in really any shape or form. Like a couple of little periods here and there, but not much at all.
No, and look, you've got to look. No one goes into a game thinking you're not good. Like they would have thought that they were going to win today. Of course they are, and they're going to thought per man is going. I'm going to show so and so, and I'm going to get the Lions jersey, and I'm going to do this. But it doesn't happen. You have to make it happen. It felt like they thought the occasion it was just going to happen. It was it's a massive game, and therefore that means uh, everybody's got to play real well. You have to grab it and take it on and really dominate your opposite player. I mean, there isn't one player on there, despite some of the guys having good games like Darge, who did play well, but he didn't outplay Van der Fleer. No, no way. If you might say it's 50-50, but he didn't dominate him. And I think that's they needed that. They went after Sam Prendergast, and they got quite a lot of change out of him in his defense of 10, and that's something he's going to work on. But they didn't. They didn't go after him. They didn't hold him on the ground and put it, on him. And I think they thought they could beat Ireland just by the rugby and their class. And you have to have both. You have to have that, and then you have to have dog. And there wasn't enough dog for me at all.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely the result. That's definitely the way it looked. I mean, there were a couple of Scottish players that I thought had uh, performed reasonably well. I thought Duhan played pretty well. I thought he showed up a lot and got off his wing. And with the relatively little ball that Scotland had, I thought he was quite active in the game. Darge, we've already mentioned. I thought Tom Jordan actually showed up pretty well as well. That incredible pass that he made to get, I'm not sure who caught it. Was it Hugh Jones or Kinghorn maybe? To get outside Henshaw. That was a phenomenal pass.
Was
Um,
Hugh Jones playing, TT?
yeah, he was. Yeah, I saw your tweet.
Honestly, like, okay, look, how many Scottish guys would make the lines right now?
Oh, they still
Start
will. This was a damaging performance for them in terms of line selection for sure. But
very.
um, yeah, I thought Hugh Jones. I actually saw him around a little bit. I saw a little bit of dog and fight out of him. To be fair, today, um, yeah. But that incident that led to that great break. So that pass is quite an
Oh,
interesting
when
thing because
Henshaw,
Henshaw,
yeah,
yeah, Henshaw clearly thought he could intercept it, and
yeah,
that was the skill of the pass. And I think you celebrate how brilliant that pass was because he
yeah,
tempted Henshaw to come in and then
it was
got the
beautiful.
ball sort of fizzed across his face. It was an incredible pass, but Gibson Park got back to tackle Kinghorn, which again is just that example of Ireland working so hard for each other. And if somebody makes a slight mistake somewhere, you guarantee that another Irish player is going to cover it up somewhere.
Yeah, it's very they're very becoming very like South Africa in terms of their scramble defense. And I can only think that Alan Walters have made a massive difference in terms of their fitness levels. And I mean, they looked really really fresh. And I think Scotland are at a disadvantage there. I've got 4 or 5 boys that aren't centrally contracted and are playing in France and don't have aren't managed correctly. And that's where I think some of the Irish players. I mean, the selection of Pom coming in there, he would have been fresh coming back off a rehab and getting through the injuries, and he only has to worry about playing that game. And but yeah, the scramble defense that back for that to get back was that's Six Nations worthy and possibly Grand Slam worthy if they keep doing that kind of unbelievable work rate and play. It's hard to beat.
It is, yeah. I mean, we don't need to go through all the other things that happened in the game. Ireland got their couple of tries from low, which was a great finish outside Kinghorn. Conan scored after a great trip from Gibson Park, and Scotland got one back late through Ben White, who I thought actually also was quite
Played well,
combative. He
played really
didn't,
well.
the ball, yeah, the ball wasn't great for him, but I thought he was at it today for sure.
Yeah,
Um, 32-18. it felt like that was a good score for Scotland. In genuinely, it felt like Ireland
Oh
probably
yeah.
deserved to win by a bigger score based on the dominance that they had in this game.
Yeah, I think that would be possibly disappointing for the Irish. I mean, look, they got the win, and it's the same as last week. They got the win against England, and yet conceded 2 late tries, which was poor. But they find ways of winning. They won't be worried about that. They'll make changes. I like what they're doing with their squad and just funny little selections. Um, they didn't feel the need. To bring on a bomb squad esque, which we thought, they'd done it the week before, and we thought, wow, the difference with the bench would make such a thing. But they didn't need to do that. They'd kind of drip fed. Sheehan came on at half time, presumably. Unless there was something going on with Keller, but I'd imagine that was probably a rehab kind of thing that they're bringing him back, and maybe they do want him to be the starter, and he's getting an extra 10-20 minutes each week, so he might well be starting in 2 weeks time. But yeah, and then the other guys came on. And maybe it was because some of them came on for 5 or 10 minutes in the first half because of the HIAs, but they just it wasn't all at once, and it kind of was probably a good thing in a way that not sometimes when you bring them all on at once it can go a bit pear shaped and you can lose momentum. They just snuck them on over a period of time, and you got someone like Healy and Murray coming on. I think it was 256 caps coming on at one go. It's just unbelievable,
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Right, for Scotland, very disappointing, obviously, but it's almost odds on now that they'll go to Twickenham and turn up and kill England there when they go there, I should think.
Well, this is the thing, yeah, 100%, and it's the same. France last night were shockingly bad, and probably left at least 3 tries there. Dupont was not good at all for his standards, but you can be guaranteed when we play them, they'll be as good as they've ever been, and it'll be the same. That's the great thing about this Six Nations because it does hurt, right? For supporters it hurts, but for the players it stings, and those Scottish players will feel awful because they'll know that they didn't go as hard as they could have. So yeah, they'll come out and I hope they win all the rest of their games. Uh, and then it leaves it nice and open for us. We're the only ones now that can go on and do the Grand Slam, which I don't think will happen, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, you're the only team that can do it. So, that France game is obviously going to be the key one. Okay, let's bring this one to a close. That's what we think, guys. What do you think at home? Anything that we missed that you think was really important? Do you think we've been harsh on Scotland? Do you think that there were players in that Scottish team that we didn't sort of mention that stood up and really did fight as hard as you think they can fight? Let us know in the comments down below, and we're joining you there for a friendly conversation. All our conversations are friendly on this channel. So it just leaves me to say, Elko, thank you very much again for your time.
Thanks, TT.
And people at home, you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next. And don't forget to get out and play.